This is the Straight Up Breakdown Podcast with Greg Smith and Jay Foreman. Tell it to me straight up.
Hello, and welcome into the Straight Up Breakdown Podcast, proudly part of the Hale Varsity Network. I am Greg Smith, it's a new month, so everything is upside down, it feels like, but it's back to the same grind, friends.
I am Jay Foreman, as you can tell, I guess I would say I'm the bootleg Doc Rivers, because youth basketball is still over, and I've officially lost my voice.
Now, were you getting on the kids, getting on parents, or getting on the refs?
No, I never get on the parents. Wasn't really getting on the refs or the kids. It was a big tournament, so it was really, really loud. And when I coach with a mask on, and everybody out there mask up. When I coach with a mask on, you got to yell just to get just regular conversations going with, tons and tons of people. I'm not trying to, get, but, in your big gyms and, people can't hear you. So that's all it was. And my voice is officially gone.
Okay. All right. So we got you on your Doc Rivers. After this, we're going to get you on some tea, a little Vicks Vapor Rub, maybe some tussin if it get too bad. You know how we feel about tussin in these parts.
Mm-hmm.
So get that going. All right, so we get into it here. So each week we have a couple of segments that are mainstays of the show. We longtime listeners of the program know. The first one is called Coach Speak, where we go over something that a coach, player, or talking head said, and we give you the straight up breakdown of what they said.
Coach Speak to Real Talk.
Now this week it comes courtesy of Russell Wilson's agent, Mark Rogers. Who, after you saw all of the different reports of Russell Wilson does want to trade, Russell Wilson doesn't want to trade, Seattle might trade him, they might not. But Mark Rogers, Russell Wilson's agent, said this to Adam Schefter in a quick statement. And he said that he told the Seahawks that he wants to play in Seattle, but if a trade were considered, the only teams he would go to are the Dallas Cowboys, the New Orleans Saints, the Las Vegas Raiders, which is still weird to say, and the great Chicago Bears. So, hey, what did he really mean when he said that?
He meant what he really means is, you got to excuse the voice, is that Russell's ready to be up out of here. But these are the only four teams that you guys can continue to pay me at this premium price, but I want you to trade Russell so he can go get more money somewhere else. And here's the funny thing. Here's the analogy I would have. It's like you're married, you're in a relationship, and you're like, okay, well, I know that, we're married, but you know what? I'm okay with being here since, I'm okay with you being my wife, but I got four other ones that I think that's once this ends, I got four lined up over here. And these are the only four girls or guys that, the partner would leave for. It's because, this situation is a little different, and this has probably been brewing for a little while because the amount of hits that he's been taking, and some of it has been on his own fault because he holds the ball so long to get guys open. Right. Is that, very rarely do you see an agent leak specific names on the record to I think it was Adam Schefter. I mean, that very rarely happens. So, this has some teeth to it. And then I don't know whether it was inspired by the Deshaun Watson thing or the Stafford trade, or it's just that they felt like it's time. And sometimes, even though they have, DK Metcalf and have always been really competitive at being in the, the playoff picture, the defense was not very good this year, not what it was, not a really established, really good physical running game. The offensive line, besides Dwayne Brown, is porous at best. So he's probably not just at this year, but, another 2 years. And then that's when Seattle might want to pull the plug on them. So, he's trying, he's actually doing business-wise on the field, first of all, is being smart. He kind of actually taking the New England Patriots approach, but just from a player's perspective, leave before they cut you. Then number two, all the markets that he's talking about going to is going to help his brand, and Russell, look, ever since he's been in the league, his brand has grown, exponentially. Maybe it's hit his peak in Seattle. I'm sure his wife would like to be in a big, city more often, and like that. And, we'll see what happens. I think if I'm Seattle and I'm inspired and maybe like, oh, we'll keep him for another year, we'll cut him next year or in a year or two. I'll do it right now while he's still in his prime. He's 32 years old. He's been playing 9 years of excellent football. And, you know, he's not slowing down. So this is, and even if you think he's not as good as he has been or, you know, had been, that's not your problem. You want to try to get the most bang for your buck. And this is probably the time to do it, considering that you got the Chicago Bears that has assets to do it. Even if you threw the Dolphins in there, the Jets, or you're not the Dolphins, the Jets, but, you know, the teams that you talked about with the Raiders as well, because you could actually do a swap for Carr and Wilson and end up doing pretty well.
And that's the thing that I think is kind of what's becoming interesting to me about these kind of quarterback situations in the NFL is that, okay, and I'm with you. I don't know if it's, you know, Deshaun Watson getting out in front of this early and saying, hey, man, I want out of here, or it's the Matt Stafford trade. Maybe there's been another one or two that have happened here recently. But I do think that somehow, and I don't think that this will trickle down to like every position group in the NFL. Like, I really think this is going to be specific to quarterback. But quarterbacks are looking around and saying, hey, man, I want to get into a better situation. You saw Aaron Rodgers dangle that carrot out there after the season, right? Which we talked about that for almost a whole show, because that would be super interesting to see if something happens there. It seems like that's quieted down a little bit. But it feels like quarterbacks realizing that they're in the power position in the league, and there's only so many of them, and there's only like 16 actual good ones, and so they're in the, but that also makes that difficult, right, for these trades, because I'm with you 100%. If I'm the Seahawks, while I would not close the door on trading him, because at some point you're gonna have to restart. Right? Like, you're going to have to, like, you're getting towards the end of this window with this coach and quarterback. So maybe it's a new way forward to go ahead and move him. But even with that being said, I don't want to move him for just draft picks if I'm Seattle, because I also want to still be competitive.
Right. Well, see, here's the thing. You got to, like, the window is closing. And then when you have to restart, if you kept Russell Wilson, say, for like another 3 or 4 years, when you restart, and it might even be before 3 or 4 years, then you got to re-sign him to top dollar. And then he's 3 or 4 more years, you know, older. And you can't, you know, obviously, unless you're Tom Brady and other guys, you can play forever, which I think actually guys like Russell Wilson, the Drew Breeses, and all those guys that actually know how to play the position of quarterback can play a lot longer. But you get what I'm saying? Then you have to, when you restart in the NFL, it's cap space, it's roster purging, and you got to deal with a few years of losing. And why would, I mean, you know, then you got to pay extra for a superstar like Russell Wilson to stay there and get their head beat in, when actuality, the best thing that they would want to do, or in all actuality, is that they want to have a younger quarterback to kind of learn and deal with that. So this might be the time. I wouldn't close the door on it. I would really have to look at the roster and see what we could do in the draft, and obviously free agency, which is not much considering that they're, you know, what their cap is like. Right. And the appeal of going up to Seattle as well. You know, I wouldn't close the door, but I definitely I think the door would be more open to trade him right now. That's what I would be doing.
If you were in the power chair, would you be more likely to trade Russell Wilson or Deshaun Watson if you're those two teams, or would both of them be? Would you trade them both?
I would probably trade. Well, first of all, look, in the NFL, you never want a player that does. You don't want to ever keep a player that. And both of these guys are high class dudes, so you don't ever want to keep a player there that doesn't want to be there, right? And it's different. Russell Wilson will show up on time, right?
Yeah, he'll still come there. Yeah,
because I don't think that I don't think there's the deep rooted issues with Seattle, even though there's issues there versus like Houston with Deshaun Watson, and you know JJ Watt had issues there, and Hopkins and all the other guys. Whereas when you got Watson, he's talking about not even showing up. So therefore, you can't even really field a legitimate team. But I would probably trade both of them because, one, the cap ramifications, two, the draft capital. And when you're, well, in Houston's case, you're starting over. So you got at least a season or two, unless you go like 1-15, that okay, or losing is okay. Now, Seattle is different. I would trade. See, in Houston, I would trade for draft capital, the ability to draft potentially another franchise quarterback. With Seattle, which is a little bit better team because you got two legitimate receivers in Lockett and Metcalf, and they got a pretty good tight end. And they always kind of have a running back that kind of comes out of nowhere. And you still got Bobby Wagner and guys on defense. You know what I mean? You got Adams and those guys, and they can still compete. I would trade for a more veteran quarterback, established quarterback. So then appealing would be like, say, first would be the Raiders with Carr, right? He had a great season last year, right? And he played really well for him and could do some things. And he's not Russell Wilson, but he can still win you a lot of games and showed you can win a lot of games. And really played the second half of the season just as good as Russell Wilson and maybe even a little bit better with less talent because he only had really one tight end, he had the tight end Whaler. So, but then if you're trading with Chicago, with the Nick Foles, he's awful brittle. Is that really worth it? You definitely want to try to get a veteran or sign somebody, maybe like even somebody like a Jameis Winston, somebody that can bring some juice and you can still win and maybe sneak into the playoffs. So it's two different things, but I definitely would jump on it right now because what people don't understand, right? The NFL is a copycat league. That Stafford trade for Goff set off everybody like, oh, okay, this is something that never really happened before.
Yeah, so we can do this now.
We can do this. Next year, nobody might never want to do it because it might not work out. Now, if it does work out, you're going to see it on a consistent basis. If it doesn't work out, then it's not going to happen anymore. So it's, you got to take advantage of it. And then, look, teams are out here willing to give up all this money. What I mean by money is like draft capital for a quarterback. Go take advantage of it. Somebody's coming to your door with 2 first-round picks and, established NFL quarterback that's, he might say he's not top 16. And, Derek Carr, I think, is a top 16 quarterback, but say Jameis Winston that's not thought of as a top 16 quarterback, maybe say top 20, considering that, you did a year in New Orleans and learned a lot, why not? And do it and see, it'll only be a year or two. And the cost that you're going to be paying him, which is Jameis Winston I'm talking about, right, is a lot lower than what you'd be paying the quarterback that you have now. So, I would definitely do it. I wouldn't be desperate to do it.
I'm not in a rush to do it. No.
Right. If I'm Houston, it's if it's 9 a.m., I'm trying to have this deal done or the parameters of this deal done by noon.
Yeah, I don't understand the people saying that Houston should just wait and his value will still be high next year. And here's why. If I'm Houston, listen, it's over with this group. Anybody that was part of this group that got us success into the playoffs, as recently as 2 years ago, it's over with that group. So we need to go ahead and just expedite the rebuild. Like I just don't understand the whole just go ahead and hold on to him and kind of his value will still be if he wants to go ahead and hold out, make him. No, you still have to be able to find a way to eventually make your team a contender. And I think the path to that now, unfortunately for them, is to basically completely reset and restart. And the first step to that is getting as much as you can back for Deshaun Watson, because you're talking about a franchise guy who's not even at his prime yet.
He's not even hit his peak. And then, they got a few bad contracts on their roster as well. I would make it more appealing and say, hey, look, we'll trade you Benardrick McKinley too, the middle linebacker. That's
right. Try to pack somebody else in.
Right, and then then you get to cut him in a year, and then go from there. Essentially, you give him more. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's like the Herschel Walker trade, but try to do something. Just don't trade Deshaun Watson. Here's a couple guys flip what Arizona Cardinals did to us or did to Houston, and do it to somebody else, and then go from there. So. I would be doing it right away. And listen here, Deshaun Watson's not stupid. When you get a new GM and new coach in the NFL, unless it's like Bruce Arians coming in and they're really trying to win,
right?
It's not fun. I've been through it and it's not. And he wants to win. I think he understands. Yeah, it's good to throw for a whole bunch of yards, but he doesn't want to get beat up. He had a superior or a really superb year, and he needs to take advantage of it. He played above and beyond what he did with less this year. So that magnifies what he did, right? So, you can't do that every year. You just get worn out. And so you want to make sure that you take advantage of the NFL and your situation as much as possible, because it comes few and far between. It doesn't happen to every single player. Mainly it was quarterbacks. I think J.J. Watt got it just because they did him a solid. But, Other guys, you got to wait and you got to wait until they call and tell you they've been traded, cut, or they don't need you anymore. So it's just an interesting situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that'll be something I think, like we said, will continue to be a topic of conversation and something that will have long-reaching tentacles here because, like you said, NFL is a copycat league, and we'll see how if these quarterback trades kind of change the landscape. But right now I want to shift gears a little bit. It's not often that we get to talk about one of us kind of being in the news. And this is interesting to me for a lot of different reasons.
Let's break that down.
You have been in the news, sir.
Okay.
Now it's interesting. So let me back up. You and Jason Peter are volunteering with the Huskers, lending your time, and I'm going to let you explain exactly what that means because I find, to me, when I say it's interesting, like I knew that y'all were doing this. I was not prepared for kind of the different reaction to this. And we're going to get to that in a second because I want to ask you specifically about a couple of things. But first of all, for the people that are living under a rock and don't know, what is it that you and Jason are doing with the Nebraska football team right now?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's nothing specific. We're down there on a volunteer basis. It's definitely part-time. And really what I've been doing is trying to create a rapport with the kids and get to know them, right? Get to know what makes them tick, what they really want, support them, talk to them about other stuff besides football. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And trying to help them, help with culture that has nothing to do with us individually, just what's successful, what could be portable in business and life and all the other stuff. So it's a lot of that. And then also, like with me trying to, one of the things I want to try to do is like get the linebackers play with a little bit more edge, and when you play with a little bit more edge, you that's where the leadership comes from. And understand that playing at Nebraska and what you're doing doesn't just stop when you get done playing because you set forth the foundation after you leave playing. And also try to get these guys to maximize their opportunity and time at Nebraska. That's on the field, off the field, in the classroom. Creating relationships that can help them, long after they get done playing. Because every kid that comes to the University of Nebraska isn't going to be an All-American, isn't going to be all Big Ten, isn't going to be in the NFL. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a good time or a good, experience at Nebraska.
Right.
I've been on record, and I said it, and I'm saying it, and it's the truth, right? It is that Nebraska's fighting perception, which is just when you talk to everybody outside of the state of Nebraska, they think, Nebraska is nothing but cornfields, and in general, I hear a lot, do black people live there, right?
Right.
Now that's kind of a little bit ignorant because look, we are in 2021, but that's what people think, right? And that's what probably being sold out there. And kids have left on a consistent basis, right? A lot of them African American. I've said that Nebraska needs to have, and I was saying this before I was even, involved or even maybe a candidate or whatever you want to say, is that they need to have more African Americans in a supportive role to show them not just what they can do athletically, just show what they can do just by, being a part of the community, right? And so they can see people that have been successful, but then also be an on-site support system. You get what I'm saying? Like, yes, I'm 44 years old. I saw some article with it. I'm old now. Okay, well, the same things that I'm saying now in 2021 is the same things that I wasn't afforded to say or asked to say in 2010 or 11 or at 2009 when I guess I was 34 and just fresh out the league. The message doesn't change, isn't going to change. Yes, college football's changed, but to be successful at the University of Nebraska in general on the field isn't going to change. Now, there's stuff that happens off the field that can curtail that. That's obviously staying out of trouble, staying focused, doing your schoolwork, being accountable. There's a guy on the team, look, dude, I said, hey, man, you made all the lists. And he was like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you were 2 minutes late. You missed a couple assignments in class and you missed one of your meals. Okay. I said, you didn't hit the daily double. I mean, you hit the Thursday triple. No more. He's like, I got you. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Now, that's a relationship that I've kind of already had, but you got to come and say, it's not, hey, you're horrible, quit, we don't want you here. It's, you're better than that. You know what I'm saying? These kids are smart enough to know that, right? So that's what we're doing. I'm sure it might change, or, we might do more, might do less. I'm going to tell you this. I'm not coaching. I'm not going in there evaluating X's and O's. I'm not going in there and evaluating Scott Frost. I'm not going in there evaluating any type of like coaching staff, offensive schemes, defensive schemes, or anything like that. I've never been approached to do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to step on people always probably just think linebackers just because I play. I'm not here to step on Barrett Ruud's toes, Shenanders, or anybody like that. I'm not even willing to. That's not me. You know what I'm saying? I'm here really, to be honest with you. This isn't about the coaches. This is about the university, right? In my experience that I had, which led me to have, exceed any expectation I ever had when I came here in 1994 as an 18-year-old pipsqueak, right? So this isn't about Scott. Yes, I know Scott. Scott's a friend. We played together. We're you know what I'm saying? We're former teammates. But that's not what it's about. This is about the University of Nebraska. You get what I'm saying?
That's a good point for me to ask my next question, because I think that one of the things that is funny, I saw a tweet from another former player this morning that was talking about, I don't know how I would feel if like when we played, if some guys from the 70s came in to tell us how it was back when we played. I think that there is a common misconception, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know how common it is, or there is a misconception that what y'all are doing is you going over there, standing over people, hollering, and talking about this is what we did back in our day.
No, it has nothing to do with it. Really, this ain't about me, man. I've done everything that I could do physically, first of all, mentally, and all that. I don't want to play sports anymore. I don't need to do this. All right. This is not something that I need to fulfill me. I've won 3 national championships. I've done everything I need to do. Right. So this isn't about what we did. What we did is no different than what Alabama's doing, Ohio State's doing, a little bit, say, like Northwestern's doing, what I mean is doing, hitting the, 4 or 5 core principles of success to be a good football team. You know what I mean? I'm not standing over anybody. I don't need to do that. I don't need to be an authoritative figure over, kids that, I mean, that's not even close to what we're doing. And it's the funny thing about it is that, that's the easiest thing to do. Oh, here's 2 guys that were successful in the 90s, and that's what they're there to talk about. That's like an ignorant take. You know what I'm saying? That's a short-sighted, ignorant take. It really is, because what we did in the night, yes, we won 3 national championships. That's not going anywhere. Okay, so don't dummy it down, right? Don't disrespect it. But look, 3 national championships. Look how we were able to do something that maybe the 1992 Nebraska team or 93 wasn't able to do. You know what I'm saying?
Right, and that's in their own right.
Right, yeah. right. That's and like the scoring explosion with the 80s, right? Let's not look what they did. Okay, they were extremely physical. Okay, they went above and beyond, both individually and collectively. I'm assuming they held each other accountable. They were great teammates, and they came every day to be the best they can be. And then they wanted to win more than they wanted to. They hated losing more than they like to win. And there's other things that you got to do. That's not what. Tell me a team right now. Here's what I would ask you: show me 5 teams at professional or college that have won without being physical. Of course, you got to have talent, and of course, if you're extremely talented, and that's one thing, but just, you got to have talent that, weren't like well coached, well conditioned, really loved football, held each other accountable. That doesn't mean you got to like each other, right? Or be all kumbaya, right? Or and then push each other to the maximum, and then went above and beyond. And I'm talking about above and beyond in the weight room, the classroom, obviously in the film room, and then on the practice field. Just show me 5. And then I won't say anything. And you can't, because football's not going to – yes, football has changed. The way they run plays is changed. But BYU is not winning a national championship. They can't control the line of scrimmage, right? And what you're doing is trying to get these kids to look here, man. We're here for as like advisor. We're not adversaries. We're advisors, right? I don't understand. Like, okay, what do you need? You want Ndamukong Suh to retire and Lavonte David to retire just because they are higher accolades than me to come in here and volunteer at the University of Nebraska? Would that make you write a better article? Would that make you feel better? Or do you need somebody else to go in there because you want to say something negative or in a roundabout way about the University of Nebraska? I don't know. That sounds like personal problems that you have with people at the university. Then pick up the phone and deal with it.
Yeah, I think that part of it, I think that part of that perception is that people see something like, some people, I don't want to say all, some people see something like this, what y'all are doing, and say, well, off the bat, well, why would a kid now care about what those dudes have to say? And what I actually would combat that with is I think that you're underselling the kids and you're underselling the people that are volunteering. And I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you about it. I mean it. Like, I think that I don't think that it's automatic that a kid will see somebody that was successful at their university, no matter what age they are, and just brush them off. Like, I don't know. I think that you're doing them a disservice by saying that they would just automatically do that.
Look, dude, I can look when I got up there and I was up there for it really, like, people started texting me after I introduced myself for 5 minutes. I said, look, man, I just went over what I did glossary. I said, look, this isn't about me. This is about you guys. I want the best for you guys. I want to help you guys reach all your goals. Yeah, I'm here as much or as little as you need me. Use me as much as possible. It's not about me, man. And I remember being on campus, and Johnny Rodgers was on campus, and he did the same thing. I remember the conversation with him at the training table. It wasn't about him. His face and all that stuff is all over the university at that time.
Right.
He won the Heisman. He's All-American, and you know what he said? He said, "Look, don't make the mistakes I made. Work as hard as you can. Be the best teammate. Keep your nose clean. Go to school, and everything else will be all right. You do that, and these 5 years will be good for you. Don't do what I did." Now look, now you got to get into it. Now he wasn't there. Now he was around a lot, but okay, you're like the Ed Stewart, the Broderick Thomas talking, doing that when he was around. When they come back for 2 or 3 weeks in the summer. The Troy doing. I mean, all these dudes. Like, it's been done before. And here's the funny thing about it. Do you think the University of Alabama? First of all, I know the University of Tennessee does. Okay, I know that for a fact, because I know who does it. I know the University of Alabama does it all the time. Do you think Nick Saban only has, I know they had Kobe Bryant and you talk like that. Those are special occasions, right? Do you think he doesn't have players that played big or small, like All-Americans not around there?
Right.
That's what his team is made up of. Yes, you hear about the Derrick Henrys and all that other stuff, but who was the best leader on University of Alabama this year? The center that blew out their ACL, that's still going to probably be a first-round pick, that transferred in, that was their leader this year. That was their leader. They have guys around there. I'm telling you, I mean, it's this isn't, you think, what do you think Ohio State? Okay, here's a perfect example. I played it. Listen, I played with James Cotton, right, up in Buffalo, linebacker from Ohio State. Played a couple years in Buffalo. He works in the program. Do you think Ohio State has a problem with that? Yes, they're winning and all the other stuff, right? Jonathan Wells, right, wasn't a part of the national championship team. Played for Jim Tressel, didn't win the national championship there. You think he's around? The quarterback that was there, he's around the program.
Eddie George still comes around.
Eddie George. Now, granted, I didn't win the Heisman. I didn't win the Buckets and all that. But these guys, they have got, okay, I think his name is Darren Fox, the safety. He's involved. Robbie Carpenter, A.J. Hawk's around. All these guys that are around these programs, it seems like anything that happens in Nebraska, you got to go, okay, well, anything that has to do with success in Nebraska, let's dummy it down and let's try to figure out and do it another way. And it has nothing to do with the offense, defense, or players. It's just the foundation, like the square box or whatever, the building blocks that you did to do it. It's almost like some people that, and I'm not saying that I'm the cure-all, okay? But if it wasn't me, I would think there's nothing wrong with it. It's got to be more positive. I mean, it'd be nothing. It can't hurt, right? Especially if you're staying in your lane, which I'm more than willing to do. Okay, so that'd be like somebody taking over Amazon after Bezos leaves. And it's like, we're just going to change the whole business model. We want to do it another way. Okay, well, he built it up this way. No, we want to do it another way. Everybody else has been doing it this way, right? Online shopping, but we're going to do it another way. How long do you think that's going to last? Not going to last that long. So, I mean, you know, and I get it. I understand. It's almost like, and I get it. If I was a kid and you're hearing about the last great team, you don't want to do it. Well, I mean, okay, well then have somebody come back from the Mike Riley area, and then they tell you how they won. They didn't, because you want to know what they didn't do. They weren't physical. They didn't practice hard. They didn't play hard. They didn't really care. They didn't go above and beyond, and they weren't good teammates, majority of them. Or you know what I'm saying? Now, there was good guys on the team and all that. You know, there's still holdovers that played well. Give it, but you understand. And they didn't hold each other accountable, because you wouldn't have guys skipping out on practice, skipping out on workouts if they held each other accountable. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't that important to them. That's all we're trying to do. I mean, it's really.
I don't think that's a. And it's funny, as you lay it out kind of about what other teams are doing, it made me think of something. That usually these sorts of things, whether it's here or elsewhere, are usually seen as a sign of a healthy overall program, that the older guys, like, and not necessarily, like, you know what I mean, like the guys that are guys that they're still willing to come back and give back to the university. Like, because was it Bo, early in Bo, if I'm not mistaken, that people would complain that he didn't have former guys coming back and he didn't have enough of an open door policy.
Right.
I know that was the case in Callahan.
Right. Well, Callahan, you couldn't come.
Right.
Bo, out here, I'm going to say this about Bo. When I first retired, I called Bo, and I was thinking about coaching. He did call me back. But then as criticism about him started to grow, there was a perception that he only wanted the guys back that were his guys that played for him. Now that's just Bo's really, personality.
Yeah, the guys that have been part of his personality.
Yeah, and they tried to he tried to change the black shirt and all that, and I get it. You know what I mean? But that was their perception. And then Mike Riley didn't care. You know, I mean, his thing was like, come one, come all. Let's have a little let's have some a little kumbaya, and the last thing we're going to do is think about, winning football games. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I mean, it's weird, but, I think Nebraska, look, I would say this. This has been 20 years in the making, set forth by 10 years of a conscious effort. This is just my opinion, of a conscious effort of people trying to knock down how Nebraska was successful for 30 years. And then conversely, it turned into 20 years, because when you took those 10 years, and this might be an over-exaggeration of 10 years, but if you took that big chunk of time and knocked it down, that's when the college landscape changed. Right. And that's when we weren't, it was a perfect storm. So that 10 years turned into 20. And now that's how your goes, say, from 2011 to 2021, or 2001 to, when we were in 2001 to 2021, that's 20 years. And that's where you're at. And I can say all this, right, with being brutally honest, like Nebraska should have won maybe 6 to 8 more games over. I could argue that they should have won 6 to 8 more games over the last 3 years.
Oh yeah, I would definitely say that.
I'm not coming in here with my head in the sand. And like I said, I'm doing it for the University of Nebraska. Yeah, I know Scott. I know guys on the coaching staff that I been knowing for a long time. I got a lot of respect for those guys that coach, right? And I know Barrett, I know the type of dude he is, I know he wants to do right. Like I said, I'd be very surprised if they're going up there just, trying to collect a check. They got pride and egos. They got families they got to feed. They know the pressure's on. If they ask me they need some help, why wouldn't I? You know what I'm saying? I got a healthy respect for the University of Nebraska. Just so happens that I know that some of these guys, you know what I mean? Now, if I guess if Bo would ask, why wouldn't I go do it? If Mike Riley would ask, why wouldn't I go do it? You know what I'm saying? I don't understand. I mean, I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe I didn't really think it was a big deal, right? I really didn't.
So you didn't think that it would, like, and I don't even want to say it's turned into a big thing. Like, it's just, in part, it's because, like, just the nature of the beast around here. Yeah. But yeah, so you were caught off guard by the reaction to it.
Well, I don't really, do the whole internet thing, right? And I really don't, worry about it. I mean, yeah. And so I wouldn't say caught off guard. I just really didn't. First of all, I didn't really think it would be that public. But I guess it's a slow time of year. I mean, I guess the reaction. I guess look, anytime you do anything in this world, it's going to be negative, right? And that's fine. There's going to be negative, connection to it. So I guess look, I think the same people that have been, got an issue with it, say like former players or whatever, or people that they probably always had a problem with the university, and some of them might be rightfully right, but that doesn't have anything to do with Jay Foreman. And if it does, I'm not hard to find. I'm really not. Yeah, and if you got a problem, we can problem solve. We can talk about it, and then we can, we either come to a conclusion or just say, hey, look, dude, we can agree to disagree. You know what I'm saying? I just think it's weird that, like people that, that don't have association with, I mean, they got association with the program, but at every turn, you got something to say.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why? Well, like, okay, because then it's like, why don't you just, why don't you just say what the real deal is? Because Johnny Rodgers was around when I was around. You know what I'm saying? And maybe we were raised different, but I don't really think that. Look, man, I can tell you like this. If I'm too old for you to listen to what made, I guess, me successful or to try to help you be successful, then how are you ever going to be coached?
Right. Then what are you? Yeah, right. I'm with you. And then how are you looking at Barrett or Mike Dawson or Chenander? Like, if that, like, you know what I mean? And you have a complete problem with authority and being coached. Right. I'm with you.
Right. Then how are you ever going to be successful?
Right.
At anything. Yeah, you could sit up there. I can tell you, like, I'm not trying to get in front of the team for 30 minutes and go, oh, this is how I came from Minnesota. Man, I ain't got time for that, man. I really don't. This is all about the players, all about the university, and I want the best for those dudes. Bottom line, straight up, no, straight to you, no chaser. You know what I'm saying? And I just find it weird, and yeah, heck, when I was in the pros, guys, when they used to do the skits about, off the field issues. Did I want to hear it? No, but I always showed respect and did it because you just never know when something that you might see or hear can help you down the road, or I guess I was raised never to disrespect, an adult or, pay attention or, I mean, heck, Sheriff Alberts came back and talked to us. This dude he just got drafted number 5 in the draft. Like, why would I not listen to him? Or when Roger Thomas, came to Houston, to the facility and wanted to, forge a relationship with me. Somebody I ain't never even had a, not a run in, but just, a relationship with prior time. It's a Nebraska connection. There's a big gap there, right? He talked about what he did successful, what he's seen other people do unsuccessfully, including himself. Don't do this. This is where you know what I'm saying?
Right. And
that's as a professional. I'm at the height of my career. Why would I turn my nose up at Roger Thomas? You know what I'm saying? Well, I mean, that just is, I guess, when they had that video with Cam Newton, that's the whole thing. But at this point in time, you got people tweeting that these are grown men, man. I know at least a couple years older than me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right.
That's the difference in some of the.
So would you be feeling the same if they asked you to go do it? If they asked you to go do it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. Like I said,
would those people have turned it down to then because, I'm too old? Like, would they have said that? No.
I guess. I mean, what is the age number not to be too old for somebody to say, what do you need here? Well, who's going to tell them? Because it's almost like, I remember this, like when my dad would tell me something, I would never listen. You know who had to kind of tell me some stuff to get my ear? Same thing that my dad would be, my uncle.
Right. I had the same. That's funny. I had the same thing.
So my uncle is, he's older than my dad, but it's just somebody different. But yeah, I guess, look, everybody's going to look. The one thing I always can remember that Bruce Smith used to always say is either you're part of the problem or you're part of the solution. Or you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. All I want to do is just be part of the solution, big or small. I don't ever think it's going to be that big. I really didn't think that, this would be the big deal. Maybe I just didn't, understand, maybe I was just, maybe with that, I had my head in the sand because I was just like, okay, well, let me just get in here and just try to, be consistent. You know what I'm saying? And I felt, really, to be honest with you, one thing I've learned, I think the time is right for this because they had such a lack of leadership, you had the, I call them turncoats where they're in there and they're dressing up like they want to, like they're a part of the program, but really we're just kind of biding their time and faking it. Right. And it might take that time to get it, get those guys out of the, program. And that's just part of the deal. And on the surface, from me being a former player and just watching on Saturdays and not going to practice, right? Mm-hmm. You don't know those things. And I'm just evaluating we talked about. I just worry about what I see on Saturday.
Right. That's the bottom line. What I see.
That's the bottom line, right? But then you get in there and you realize like some of the stuff, then you start seeing some, hearing the stories from the players of guys, why you understand why it's taking them a while to have a true unity council. Why when they talk about lack of leadership and culture, it's not just an overdate night thing, right? Because a lot of times, here's what people need to understand. A lot of times when you have quick turnarounds, like say like the NFL, right? When you have a quick turnaround, the foundation and the players have already been there. You just needed like a different voice. Like when John Gruden took over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he just had a little bit different, maybe from an offensive standpoint, that accentuated what Tony Dungy had built up over however many years he's been down there. Right. You get what I'm saying? Not necessarily, but Tony Dungy not necessarily that he was a better coach, but just a little bit different voice, a little bit better offensive scheme, because Tampa was so heavy, right? I really find it funny that I'm assuming Ray Lewis is about my age, right? Now I'm not comparing myself to Ray Lewis. I know for a fact that doesn't happen at the University of Miami. I know that, right? And they've been probably on the same level as Nebraska as far as being out of the picture. I wonder if Ray Lewis or Ed Reed, right? Ed Reed's in an administrative role, same type of deal. And he does actually a lot more coaching. I guarantee he doesn't hear any of that because they know he's there for the program. He cares who the head coach is, but Ed Reed's thinking about, I'm going to be there for the program. So it's just pettiness and childish, and I don't know. It seems like it's always something, man. It's always an issue if you're trying to help out, as much as possible. This is my first go around to trying to do anything like that. I've never been around the program that much, and so it's pretty interesting. So I'm learning as much as they're learning about me, and so as far as I know, it's been pretty positive.
Yeah, and I think that, listen, and I think that's the bottom line and where I want to leave it is that, like, no matter what people are saying, whether it's fans, former players, media members, whoever, like good, bad, or indifferent, like ultimately what people are saying on the outside doesn't actually matter. It's what's happening when you're there or when, like more importantly, if you're not there, like are they continuing those lessons that you've given or those tips or whatever? Right. That's the most important thing. Like, and that, like that, all the rest of it is noise. That's what players and coaches will always tell you. And so, and that's the thing, like, so you just have to kind of keep it pushing and see. But I definitely appreciate you giving the thoughts on it because it's been this to see it all kind of unfold and see like people's reaction to it, to me, has made it more of a thing than it needed to be, I think is, I guess, the best way to say it.
Right, yeah. It shouldn't be this big a deal, but, that's the way people love to jump in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
now listen, we end the show every week with our favorite segment called Put 'em on Blast, where we basically put somebody on blast for something that they did or said.
Put them on blast.
Today I'm going with the entire NBA. So it's fans with the fan vote, even though the fan vote would have been more difficult to get this man into a starting spot. Coaches, whoever is like voting on the subs for the All-Star game, we got to put them on blast because Jacob Padilla, my coworker here at Hill Farsi, his boy Devin Booker got left off the initial All-Star team. Even got my man LeBron to go ahead and weigh in and say that Devin Booker is the most disrespected player in our league. It's as simple as that. Because during the 2020 2020-2021 season, Booker has put up 24 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds while shooting 38% from 3. And I think he's actually shooting 50% just from the field overall, which is the highest of his career. And they're winning more games. Remember, the whole thing on Devin Booker, and I'm a person that said this too, is listen, the West is tough. Like getting into that All-Star game in the West is tough. You putting up these numbers, they're empty numbers. Your team stinks. Go win some games. They won games, right? I think they have the 4th best record in the league. And so he gets snubbed. Now, I should say on front, like he got in because Anthony Davis is hurt, so he got in as an alternate, but he should have been in the game. I got to put all of them on blast because they keeping Devin Booker down. I can't believe I'm going to bat for a Suns player, but it's crazy that to me that people continue to sleep on him, and maybe they just need to get more national televised games. But like Devin Booker is the real deal, man. That dude can play.
Yeah, he can. I mean, you know what's funny is he came into the league and has got, better every year.
Better as a pro,
as a pro. And, you can see a lot of that that's going to happen when you have like 5, first-round picks at the University of Kentucky. But, when Kobe Bryant was alive, he saw something in Devin Booker and kind of mentored him. Funny that we're talking about this, but, mentored him to be even a better player. And it's hard not to, it's hard, for a guy like that to make it because the depth is so deep in the West. But he's played so well this year to the guys that played against him. They probably felt it like it was a shoo-in. So he made it, and that's the most important thing. But, the funny thing is that, it's going to be another guy next year. It might be him. And then, when you're thinking, beyond this year, where you're thinking, granted, he's early in his career, but when you're thinking about trying to make the Hall of Fame, all-star games and all-star ballots count. And, he's the guy.
Look at that stuff right away. Yeah. And it's just
you look at
thing to look at.
Yeah. And so it's things that it's bigger than just this year. And that's why, everybody talks about the process and everybody can't make it, right? Every team should, has it, but you got to make sure that you get it right because if he continues along this path and if Phoenix continues along this path, they're going to, be a contender here in a few years. So, I'm happy he finally made it, but, how he made it probably isn't the best thing for him. But I think it's one of those things. He made it this year. People's eyes are open to Devin Booker. So hopefully he's going to get the benefit of the doubt, kind of like Chris Paul, his teammate, did this year. Even though Chris Paul he plays well every year, and he's a great leader. But I think he probably got the benefit of the doubt over Devin Booker this year. When you look at those two and you look at their two seasons, and they're both all-stars, but Devin Booker has been special this year. Chris Paul has been Chris Paul, which you can't dummy down, but Devin Booker has been special.
Yeah, and I also think, Devin Booker also, his situation reminds me so much of Bradley Beal.
Yes.
And Brad Beal basically got to the point, though, where you just can't deny how good he is. And they've actually been playing better. But you can't deny, like, Brad Beal is they're in conversation, both of them, for the best 2-guard in the league. And so it's just tough, though. But sometimes for guys to get over that hump when their teams have been doing so poorly. But I think that's changing for Booker. And it's good for him that people are recognizing his greatness. So who you got to put on blast?
I'm gonna put on blast, not my Houston Texans, but the other team. It seems like we could put them on blast almost like monthly or weekly, is the Houston Rockets because, obviously they had the James Harden fiasco. Then they got Victor Oladipo. You traded for a guy that that wouldn't be around more than this year. So you purged your roster for James Harden, and you had to have known that he wasn't happy. The year that they didn't obviously succeed in the playoffs and in the bubble, that he wanted to get traded. You just don't wake up on a Monday and say, "Hey, I want to be traded," and I just turned down $50 million. But then you went and get Victor Oladipo, who's an all-star quality player coming off a pretty gruesome leg injury. And they only can offer him, I think, 2 years and $45 million, and he turned it down. So now that lets you know, come summertime or after the season of the NBA, that he is gone, and you didn't really get anything back from him. Because once he's gone, all you guys like PJ Tucker, and that's about it, and not a lot of draft capital. So I'm putting the Houston Rockets management, who is the owners, Dennis, I think, Hurrdat, who's a big restaurant and hotel.
Yeah, the restaurant guy, he's having issues with those restaurants, obviously. Right. But he was actually, that started before COVID, right? Like he was like borderline bankruptcy before then. I forget which group of restaurants he owns. But they were basically going the wrong way, and so his money wasn't right. And it's been a whole situation down there.
But he's excellent in customer service and building businesses and stuff like that. But you should know, once you purge that roster and got rid of Capella, that you had to make sure if James Harden was 99% sure that he was going to sign that extension. It's kind of like Milwaukee did with Giannis. You're not going to go trade for those guys in the offseason without almost a guarantee, whether it's a handshake or it's a handshake with you cut your palm in blood back in the day. You got to make sure that your superstar is going to be back, because if you don't, like in Houston's situation, you end up essentially, trying to gamble and then you crap out. And next thing you know, now you go from a franchise that was always a contender with the MVP candidate that had, was able to run ramp shot over the personnel decisions, the coaching decisions. And now you have no foundation, and you're just pretty much, your roster is purged with no up and coming superstar, because in the NBA, you not only need one player, you need two players but actually you need three, because you can't count like the Lakers that won it, that they only have two. LeBron and AD is like 3.25 players, two of the top 5 players in the league. You need, a really, really good player, dominant player. You need a B player and a C+ player to be able to be in title contention. And right now the Rockets, at the end of this year, if everything goes the way it goes, they won't have any of those. And so they're be bottom feeders in one of the biggest markets with one of the best fan bases as far as the NBA goes, without a good product to put out there on the court.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's great. Fertitta owns the Landry's restaurant group and the Golden Nugget Hotel and Casino. So Morton Steakhouse, Rainforest Cafe, Bubba Gump Shrimp, McCormick's, and Schmidt Seafood. So some nice places that you probably eaten before. But they've taken a hit over the last few years. So that actually, it is a whole link to that stuff taking a hit and him basically needing to get rid of James Harden's contract and some of those other guys that have gone as well. So when the business started mixing with his basketball team, and then it kind of like it's just been a weird situation down there in Houston. And you're right about the fan base and the city, because that city is one that definitely shows out for their sports, but they're having a rough go at it right now.
Right. I mean, there's not anything in Houston besides the Astros, and the Astros are, still a good, legitimate team. Maybe not a title contender team, but they had the whole, trash can thing, and so they have kind of taken, a hit. Houston Texans won't be a viable team, and they've been a playoff team. You got to think all three of those teams, the three major sports have all been, were title contenders talked about as title contenders recently as 2 years ago. The city of Houston, and sports-wise, has been turned upside down like no other. And, they had, I remember when getting there, they kind of, were getting over losing the Oilers, obviously to Tennessee. But now it seems like, man, they're going over it again. So hopefully they can start to turn it around here in the next couple of years. But they are having a rough go at it, along with all the different, weather situations down there and dealing with snow and power outages. The city of Houston got to hang tight.
To put an exclamation point on the misery of Houston, yesterday the Rockets missed 25 straight threes. It's hard to hit those threes, and James Harden not around anymore. According to Elias Sports, it's the second time in the last 20 seasons that a team has missed 25 straight threes in a game. That's some ineptitude right there. But that'll do it for us this week. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast everywhere you can listen to them. Rate us, review us, and leave us a 5-star review. If you leave us 4, I am inclined to think you're a hater, and nobody wants that. Make sure that you're checking out the other podcasts on the Hail Varsity Network, the Mind Your Own podcast, Varsity Club, More to It, and the Hail Varsity Radio Show. Plus, make sure you're checking out the Hail Varsity YouTube page. I'll be doing another recruiting video of the week later on today that'll go live. We also have an email now, the straight up breakdown at hailvarsity.com. And you can catch us on Twitter at Greg Smith HB and at Foreman5644. We will catch you next time.
A Hurrdat Media Production.